Creatine. Most people think it's just for bodybuilders. But what if I told you that this simple molecule could improve memory, protect your brain as you age, and even help your daily energy? Today, we're diving into the fascinating science behind creatine and why Dr. Rhonda Patrick calls it one of the most underrated supplements for your brain. Dr. Rhonda Patrick is a scientist with a PhD in biomedical science, best known for her research on aging, nutrition, and brain health. Through her popular platform Found My Fitness, she shares cutting-edge science to help people optimize longevity and performance. What is creatine? Creatine is a compound your body makes from amino acids and stores in your muscles and brain. You can get it from foods like red meat and fish, but many people, especially those on plant-based diets, have lower levels. Inside your cells, creatine acts like a rechargeable battery, helping produce quick bursts of energy when your body or brain needs it most. Now let's hear about creatine directly from Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
Creatine has been around for, ever, for decades. And it's always been, in my mind, it was like one of those gym bro things. I'm like, I don't need to be swole. And then over the last 5 years or so, the effects of creatine on the brain started to really get my interest. What is creatine, right? Why is it important? We do make creatine. Our liver makes about 1 to 3 grams a day of creatine. Our brain also makes creatine, and those are the two organs that make it. Creatine gets consumed by other tissues, like the muscle is probably the one that's the greediest because creatine is stored as phosphocreatine, but it's used to make energy, essentially. So it can increase muscle mass, it can increase muscle strength in combination with resistance training because you're able to regenerate and make energy faster. So, for example, I became interested in it after reading studies where people that supplemented with creatine that were engaged in resistance training were able to gain more lean body mass, they were able to gain more strength. It was increasing their training volume. So you can do 1 to 2 more reps of whatever exercise you're doing. It seems to decrease the recovery time between those sets as well. So you're able to increase your training volume. Well, anything that's going to increase your training volume is going to then have the downstream effect of increasing the adaptations, like increased muscle mass or increased muscle strength.
The role of creatine, it seems to have multiple roles: anti-inflammatory, anti-catabolic. It's obviously important for producing ATP, regenerating the ATP.
Especially vegan. Vegans are not getting enough of it because creatine is found in muscle meat. So people that are eating meat are getting a dietary source of creatine. But vegans and vegetarians are not getting that creatine. It's synthesized.
Let's now explore some important studies on creatine and our body. First, let's start with a study from Germany.
So the study out of Germany found that 5 grams a day of creatine, if you're supplementing with 5 grams a day, your muscles are greedily consuming it, particularly if you're working out. They want it. After about 5 grams a day, especially over a few months, like you're saturating your muscle, and that's enough, right? Anything above that kind of spills over to the brain. What this German study found was that 10 grams of creatine increased creatine levels in several different regions of the brain. And that was probably the most exciting evidence that supplementing higher than 5 grams a day was actually doing something in terms of getting creatine into the brain. If you supplement with 10 grams of creatine or even go higher than that, like 20 grams of creatine, how does that affect cognitive function, right? Dr. Darren Kandau, he's at the University of Regina in Canada, and they've looked at things like sleep deprivation. And it's been found that if you take someone and you sleep deprive them for 21 hours and give them about 25 to 30 grams of creatine, it completely negates the cognitive deficits of sleep deprivation. Actually, not only does it negate the cognitive deficits of sleep deprivation, it makes people function better than if they were well rested. And now I would say all these creatine researchers, a lot of them are shifting to the brain. It used to be all muscle focused. And now people are super interested in what creatine is doing to the brain, especially if you're supplementing with more of it.
Your brain is an energy powerhouse, consuming about 20% of your body's energy even at rest. Supplementing with creatine gives your brain an extra energy reserve, helping it perform under stress. Dr. Rhonda Patrick highlights how creatine supports brain health, from sharper thinking to better overall function.
The brain. And that's why the brain also makes its own creatine pool. And when you get like a higher amount of creatine, if you're taking a higher amount of creatine, whatever your muscles don't take up, your muscles get the first pick because they're very, very greedy. Then creatine's left over to kind of get into the brain.
So what are the effects on the brain? Well, your brain also consumes a lot of energy, needs a lot of energy. So it does make its own creatine. But it turns out if you can give your brain more of that creatine, particularly under a period of anything that's causing stress. So let's say lack of sleep, emotional, psychological stress, or in my case, high cognitive load, where you're just every day learning concepts, complex things, you're trying to remember them, you're putting ideas together and coming up with new hypotheses, and you're studying a lot, and it's very cognitively demanding, and it's a type of stress on your brain. That's like my life, right? Under this condition of stress, depression's another one. That's a stress on your brain. Or neurodegenerative disease, that's a stress on your brain. So any kind of stressful condition, that's where creatine shines in the brain. I know that I'm constantly under stress. I'm like, okay, well, I think I need a boost. And this is where a lot of very interesting studies have come out of many different labs, some out of Germany that looked at the dose of creatine and how it increases creatine levels in the brain. And this is why I now supplement with 10 grams a day.
Let's take a closer look at how much creatine Dr. Rhonda Patrick personally includes in her daily routine. Should you start with 5 grams, or is there a better approach?
I started supplementing with creatine about a year ago. I started supplementing with it for that reason, for my training. And I was doing about 5 grams a day because that was really what was shown to be beneficial for muscle health in combination with resistance training. And it's important for people to realize that supplementing with creatine by itself without any type of resistance training isn't going to grow your muscle. It's not going to make you stronger. You have to put in the effort because what creatine is doing, it's helping you make the energy quicker. Being able to make that energy quicker means that you're able to then do that exercise better. 5 grams a day was like, okay, perfect. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing 5 grams a day. Definitely noticed an effect on my training volume where I was, doing more reps. So that was like, okay, a year ago.
And now I take 10 every day, all the time, no matter what. I baseline is 10. And I do that because of the brain effects. So there's been studies now coming out that it improves cognitive function. It might be important for brain aging. Depression is another one that's coming out. Again, energy production in the brain, very important, but you have to get above that 5 grams to have spillover, right, to the brain. On days when I don't sleep well, so if I'm traveling, I'm jet lagged, I'm in the other part of the country, and I have to give a talk at 8 a.m., which is, 5 a.m. my biological time. In those sorts of scenarios, I actually take 15 to 20 grams. And it's amazing what it does to me. It's like caffeine without the caffeine.
There's many times when I'm traveling, I'm jet lagged, lots of times when I'm sleep deprived and I have to be doing a podcast or a presentation, whatever. In those situations, I go up from my 10 grams to more like 20 grams, like today, for example.
Dr. Rhonda Patrick usually takes about 10 grams of creatine daily, but she has noted using over 20 grams in special situations like extreme sleep deprivation to support brain energy. Clinical research has also tested higher doses. For example, in a JAMA study on Parkinson's disease patients, participants took up to 20 grams of creatine per day for several months before tapering to a maintenance dose, and it was generally well tolerated. Another trial in patients with major depressive disorder combined 5 grams of creatine daily with antidepressants and saw improved outcomes, while some pilot studies in neurological disorders have explored doses ranging from 10 to 20 grams per day without major safety issues. That said, these higher doses were studied in specific medical populations, not in healthy adults, so for most people, the evidence still supports a steady 3 to 5 grams daily as the safe and effective baseline. Creatine monohydrate is the most researched and trusted form of creatine. You can choose a loading phase of around 10 grams per day, split into smaller doses for a week, before moving to a maintenance dose of 3 to 5 grams daily, or simply start with 3 to 5 grams daily for steady results. Long-term studies show it's generally safe for healthy individuals, as long as you stay hydrated. Of course, this isn't medical advice. If you have any health conditions or concerns, check with your doctor first. For convenience, mix creatine into water, coffee, or a smoothie, and remember, consistency, good nutrition, and regular exercise are what make creatine truly effective for both body and brain.